don't want to get too much into each trade. Just an overview is good for now. So 2018-19, we start off with the Barry in and Kerfoot in trade for Nazem Kadri. When I say it's a loss, I don't think many people would disagree, but some people would argue that at the time it was a good trade, and there's arguments that Kadri got suspended, etc. Again, I think these are excuses. It's a loss. We had Barry for a year. He didn't do what Dubas wanted him to do, which was push us over the top in the first round of the playoffs, and we were ousted. And we know what Kadri went on to do, and we know where Kerfoot is now and what he's doing. So it doesn't start off well. Then we look for Muzzin. We gave up a very young Sean Dursey, who we drafted, Carl Grundstrom, and a first-round pick, which became Bjornfoot to the LA Kings. There were other players available here. Bjornfoot is a young defender who needs more time. Has an upside still. He's young enough. There were other people available. So I don't think we can judge a first-round pick based on who LA took. We need to judge it based on what the draft class was like and who we needed at the time, right? Did we need someone other than Bjornfoot who was available? So I suppose at the time, Muzzin was supposed to help us get over the hump, win a round. He's just retired this year in 2023. He hasn't got us over the hump. We're not over the hump, and he played something like 56, and 47 games for us. And this year was a half year. So that's not a great return when you consider that Dursey looks to be a solid defender. LA is in the playoffs with Bjornfoot and Dursey on their back line. And Grundstrom plays the third and fourth lines and is a solid contributor as you know, a solid third and fourth liner, basically. If you would say the trade was meant to get us over the top and Muzzin was meant to shore up our defense so that we could do that, it was a loss. Now, if this team wasn't ready to make that step, what was the purpose of making this trade at that time? You know, was it jumping the gun? Did we need Muzzin? Was Muzzin the guy to put us over the top? Was Barry? Was Kerfoot, right? So I think, you know, partly we need to look at trades in the broader perspective, not simply as, oh, Muzzin was good. Well, you know, 56 games played a year, 56, 47. 47 is only half a season. That's not great. That is not great. And when you get to 2023, all of these guys are part of the Los Angeles Kings team that is in the playoffs. So I'm calling that a loss. All right. So that's two of them. Of course, in here with the Marleau trade, we are looking at the question of the John Tavares signing. And that gets into a lot of detail, which I'll save for a longer version of this video. Marleau had 1 year left on his contract. He was being paid $6 million, and the thinking was, we have to dump this contract. It's an absolute emergency. We cannot afford $6 million for Marleau for 1 more year. I think that's... And it's such a bad contract and it's so much money that we need to give up a first-round pick. That's the logic, and I think that is inane. It's reactionary, short-term thinking. Look at this. We've given up first-rounder, Dursey, first-round pick, Kadri. Now, okay, picks are first-round picks, let's call them 50-50 as to whether or not the player becomes an NHLer. But there's no sense in throwing them away, right? You don't throw away lottery tickets, basically. If you had a lottery ticket that was 50-50, you wouldn't throw it away for nothing. And again, why did we get rid of Marleau? It was one way of dumping salary. And I think Dubas thought, well, we've got John Tavares, so it doesn't matter. And I think this hurts us. And now in 2023, 4 years later, again, the pick was not a massive success. I can't remember the guy's name. I'll do it in the next video, but it wasn't a massive success, but there were a lot of other players, and I've got a list of them. So we'll look at that later. So again, I think that's a loss. What did we gain? You know, we've out of all this mess, what do we have out of all these 3 trades? Kerfoot. Like, you know, had we done nothing, Marlowe would have disappeared. Even if we hadn't have signed JT, we would have had a first-round pick. We would have Kadri. We would have Durzi. We would have Grundstrom. And we would have whoever we chose here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 players. And Kadri's cheap as well. We'll get into the suspension issue later. But, you know, it doesn't look good. I don't know where the argument that this is a success. Barry left, Muzzin retired, didn't play much. Kerfoot is just, again, being run out of town. He's the latest scapegoat. And I think that's a bit unfair. I don't think Kerfoot is the scapegoat. I think Kerfoot is a defensive forward who does what we were promised he would do. Because that's what he did in Colorado. The problem is the guy who traded Kadri for him and thought Barry was going to put us over the top. Because he does all of these things, right? All right, so moving on then, we've got Ceci, Harper, and Luchuk. For Brown, is it Carcone? It's gone anyway, and Zaitsev. Now, if you want to make the argument that Zaitsev's contract needed to be dumped, that's cool. That's okay. If you want to say this is a win because of this, I would only say it's a win because of this dumping this contract if Ceci was on our team as a solid, even 5th or 6th defender. But he's not. He's gone. We didn't keep him. We didn't sign him. We let him go to free agency for $1.5 million to, where did he go? Ottawa. He's in Edmonton now, and they found a home for him. And the coaching staff there have turned him into a solid defender. He's not in the minors. He's in contract. He's doing a job for Edmonton. Why couldn't he have stayed with Toronto and done a job here? You know, if you had a good piece back here, maybe if you take these guys out and get a better defender or, you know, get a better player anyway for this, that might make sense. But we've got nothing out of this. These guys are gone. And Zaitsev, yeah, he crashed and burned in the NHL. But Brown had an excellent run with Ottawa. Really important player. And I think he's in Washington now, and he's doing a job for them. He was a great, what was he, a 3rd line left winger, sometimes a 2nd line left winger behind Hyman. What's the point of giving him away? You know, you've got to give Brown away because of Zaitsev's contract. Yeah, but get something back, or at least whatever you get back, do something with, because now we've got 4 trades. And what do we have out of those 4 trades? We have Kerfoot. And then let's go to the next trade very quickly. Marchment for Malgin. Well, Marchment's in Dallas. He's not doing as well as he did in Florida, but he's on a good contract. They trust him. He plays a role, does a job. He's, I think, a 2nd line NHLer. And what do we have? We have Malgin. And what do we do with Malgin? Traded him for Hunt. And where is Hunt? Hunt is with the Marlies. So what do we get out of all this? We got Kerfoot. So we move on and we go, okay, we traded Trevor Moore for Jack Campbell because we needed a backup, right? So Freddie wanted more money. Campbell started playing well. He he was on and off for his first full season, wasn't he? But in the year Freddie was there, he was a good backup, and Dubas thought, well, let's save some money. We'll sign Campbell. He'll become our starting goalie. And he let in 3 soft goals versus Tampa Bay Lightning. Can't be held responsible for the entire loss, but you can't let 3 softies in versus Tampa when Vasilevsky is maybe letting in 1 in 7 games. So what happens to Jack Campbell? Jack Campbell leaves in free agency because he's just not good enough for the Toronto Maple Leafs. He's not spectacular for Edmonton. He's getting 5.5, which is probably too much, but you could argue that why not go with Campbell at 5.5 and Shalgren as a backup, because that's the same amount of money as Murray and Samsonov. Now, Samsonov he's had a decent season, good. Murray played well for 2 months and he's been injured, may come back. We'll see how that plays out in the playoffs. But point being, Campbell's gone. He's not on our team. He was a free agent. He left. And we had to replace him with a broken goalie who's made of glass and an unproven goalie who has confidence issues. That's not a winning formula. You know, that's papering over cracks by getting rid of Trevor Moore. Now, Trevor Moore, well, you say it's just Trevor Moore. Go and read the report on Trevor Moore in LA. They found him a line. He's centering, I think, the second line. His numbers are good. He's a great two-way. He's not winning the Selke, but he's a good, solid two-way center that we've given up for what? Nothing. For renting Jack Campbell for a year and falling out of the playoffs against Tampa. And because we don't have Trevor Moore, we need a third-line center. And who is it? Pierre Engvall. Wow, fabulous. Do you think LA would trade Pierre Engvall for Trevor Moore? Don't think so. Don't think so. Really go and read the report on Trevor Moore's seasons in LA. They've done a fabulous job of finding him a spot. So, here we are. First 2 seasons, I claim, because we have only Kerfoot out of all of this mess, it's all a loss. It's all a loss. It is an abomination, if you ask me. So, let's move on and take a look at 2021. Kapanen was a pretty good player for us, had a couple good seasons, was a young guy with an upside, traded for a first-round pick. I think that's a win. I don't think Kapanen was worth a first-round pick. I think Pittsburgh thought he might fit into their style of play, and he hasn't. So, yay, we got a first-round pick, right? Problem with this win is that it turns into a loss because Dubas drafted Amarov. Now, Amarov got ill. We all hope he gets better and comes and plays for the Leafs. However, we did not need, well, I mean, you could look at it this way. We had 2 serviceable at the least centers, two-way centers that are good playoff performers. He's got a cup. He's in the playoffs, right? We didn't need a center, or we wouldn't have if we had one of these 2 guys at least. But we draft a lanky center from Russia, and that is risky. When Goulet and Schneider were available, I sat there and watched the draft, and I just looked at who was on the board, and I said, we need a big right-handed defender. Everybody knew it. Let's get Schneider, please. What do? He drafts Amarov, driving me absolutely up the wall. Like, Schneider is a 6'3", I think it is, 209-pound right-handed defender who's coming into his own 2 years down the road, 2023, on the New York Rangers, who are a playoff team, and Schneider's going to be a part of their run. I mean, absolutely frustrating, all of this. So then we move on to Joey Anderson for Andreas Johnsson. Andreas Johnsson doesn't play in the NHL anymore. Joey Anderson hasn't done anything. He's just cleared waivers. He's on the Marlies. Whatever. Then we have Foligno.